The topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Geeks, Geezers, and Googlization Show, the home of Googlization Nation, where we talk with HR and business thought leaders about the crazy shift going on in the world of business, technology, and HR. Here's your host, Ira Wolf, and co-host Keith Campagna.
If you are a working parent, especially a mom on a career break who might be looking to re-enter the workforce, you don't want to miss today's show. We have Mom's Relaunch founder and CEO, Reena Gupta, joining us, and she found her calling after her first child was born and has already established a few businesses, and her mission is out to help you if you are a woman or, I guess, any parent that's in the workforce looking to restart their career. Thanks again to our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. You'll want to hear more about them during our break. You can also visit their websites. Before we get to Reena, my apologies for the Barry White voice. I'm doing my best to overcome a cold after 2 weeks of conferences, airplanes, hotel rooms, and just being on the move for about 14 days. It took its toll on the baby boomer body. Sickness aside, it's been a great few weeks. I want to extend a special thanks to everyone at HR Southwest, Garden State SHRM, Delaware SHRM, and the affiliated staffing group. All great groups of people. We're all in the same, what just proves we're all in the same boat. We're all struggling to figure out, where to find people, how to find great talent, how to keep the entrepreneur spirit alive, how to continue to grow our businesses, have be curious, have open minds. Everybody thinks that they're unique. Everybody, despite the fact that at these conferences, there were people from all over the country, actually all over the world. At the HR Southwest conference, one of the people that was in my pre-conference group was the head of HR for a bank in the Philippines. And she flew in for the conference. I don't know, especially for me, but for the conference, and we got to spend a day with her. So it's, again, people all over the world are struggling with this, and it's just great to be here. And, Googlization Nation and Geeks Geezers and Googlization, everybody who's listening in. And also the recruitment marketing for the Accidental Recruiter, my online course, was launched, and thanks everyone for the very positive response and interest. Early enrollment is still open. Take advantage of the early discount and save 50%. You can learn more about that by going to successperformancesolutions.com and clicking on the button right at the top that talks about candidate experience. You can also text RM4AR. That's RM4AR to 64600, and use the code EARLYBIRD50 for the discount. Keith, you've had a pretty busy...
Yeah, I didn't hear the last part of that, but I do want to go back and just compliment you on your tenacity with all the air travel. I am safely away from baby boomer category, but every single time I fly on a plane, it's that damn recyclable air that gets me. I could be in the West Coast, completely lose track of time, be up till 2 a.m, wake up at 6 a.m, and do everything in between. But it's the planes. Man, it gets you.
Well, it's a plane, the hotel rooms, and, it's great to be out amongst people, but there's, it's a time of year, and there was a lot of people hacking and coughing, and and everything else. My wife sort of keeps up after Jerry, as you know. I mean, she brings her wipes and wipes down everything before I can touch anything. But it's still just there. So, but it definitely took its toll this time, and it was a lot, but it was good. But it's great to be back, and now I feel like I can start to get caught up. So you had you were at some conference yesterday.
Another Geeks Geezer and Googlization alumni, Noelle Kellick from the Revolutions Project.
Oh, Revolution that was great. School. Yeah, the school.
She had a community partnership event where they bring in phenomenal. First and foremost, yesterday I'm so grateful for being there. Yesterday, they bring in all these outsiders and educators, and I was reminded that education truly has a place for progressive thought leaders. Sometimes I think based off of the quality of the conversation, people might write off educators as being a little bit bureaucratic, but not at the Revolution School. It was fantastic think session. A lot of great ideas about how do you get community involvement and community partnership growing, focusing on the passion of a community, not the profit of a community. And just, Ira, it's almost like I can't go anywhere without seeing the influence of technology take a hold on things. And this was the first time I ever got to experience a software called Thought Exchange, where we talk about being able to develop a message from an organization from within and leadership development. It blew my socks off how easy it was to collaborate and really we saved so much time by not having to necessarily discuss all the shallow thoughts, but like the surface thoughts. We were able to just use this unbelievably slick software that, check this out, gathers everybody's answer to whatever the question might be. Then you rank and rate each answer that you see, and it's all done anonymously. And then the machine learning grabs those highly rated concepts, and then starts to funnel the themes to the surface. So within 15 minutes,
we definitely have to look that up. That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I'm gonna have we're gonna get the owner on the show. It's just really, it has everything to do with organizational capability. Not it's beyond development. It's like a tool to get them there.
Yeah. Well, while you were there, speaking of alumni, glad you brought that up. We've had so many great guests, and including, and I'm sure we'll be talking about Reena after this as well. But yesterday, Enrique Rubio from Hacking HR, they're up to 6. I think they have 60 chapters now as goals for 2020 to have 200 chapters around the world. He put on an event yesterday, and your schedule's busy, my schedule's busy. Even when I go to conferences, although there's a lot of people I want to sit in on their meetings and hear what they have to say, it just doesn't happen because there's so many other things going on. But yesterday he had an event online for about upskilling and reskilling. And they had 5, I think there were 5 panels. They made it to all, but I made it to all of them. But I was kind of fading out toward the end. But one of them was on education, what reminded me, about the role of education, what schools are doing. They're in trouble. Higher education is both in trouble and also advancing simultaneously. So there was a lot really good at that. But the one line that I caught during the day, and I can't remember who said it. I wrote it down, and there's a lot of people I want to reach out to. But you might have seen it on LinkedIn. Was about that machines aren't kicking humans out of jobs, but it's the humans making decisions that are kicking humans out of jobs. And it started an interesting conversation online, but they were talking about how the revolution in education and revolution in education is, and also what impact the technology is going to have on that. So I'm really interested to hear about the tool you were just talking about.
Yeah, we're gonna. I have a follow-up scheduled. One of the women, we talk about traveling for work. She got caught up in Chicago. She's coming from I think British Columbia, and got caught. She showed
in
up
the
3
weather
hours
yesterday,
late. She was wearing her sneakers and sweatpants, and I think her clothes were on their way
I'm
to.
surprised she got there with some of the weather. So, well, that's a good segue to bring on Reena, who we don't have to worry about so much travel today, just the technology holding up, right? So we've got Reena Gupta. She is a serial entrepreneur and philanthropist. She dove into entrepreneurship when most women happened to take a break, is after her first child. She left the workforce, and while she was rearing that first child at home, she began a staffing company called Avankia, which then moved on to Target Recruit, which was a talent management platform. She eventually got involved, and we're anxious to hear about this story, with Salesforce. And she's passionate about gender diversity. A lot of talk about gender diversity, but not so much. Well, there's a lot being done, but there's a long way to go with that. Also with gender parity and pay parity. And then she founded her newest company, which is called Mom Relaunch, with the aim of helping women gain financial independence. So, Reena, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Keith.
That was Ira. So.
Oh, that was Ira. It's okay.
My pleasure.
So we get that's all right. Good person to get confused with. So Reena, let me just throw out a couple statistics that I collect. I'm a stats guy, and these I found on your website, which coincide with a lot of things that I talk about and that Keith talks about every day. 46% of employers in the U.S. can't find skilled talent. Based on what I've seen over the last few weeks, it's probably even high. I would assume it's higher than that. 69% of executives rate diversity and inclusion as an important issue. But 43% of highly qualified women leave the workforce voluntarily. Yet 93% of them want to return to their careers. So here you have a lot of employers struggling to find talent, yet there's still this gender gap. There's these gender stereotypes of women, although they probably don't ask it. I grew up at a time when when one of the questions were, so how long do you think you're going to get work? Are you engaged? Or are you dating? Do you plan to get married? When do you plan to have a baby? When I started in the workforce, those are questions that were still being asked. But I'm sure behind the scenes, there's still some thought with that. And yet here we are in almost 2020. People are struggling to find very talented, gifted people. Almost 60% of all college degrees are given to are earned by females, by women in the workplace, and yet we still have all this going on. So what you're doing is just marvelous, and I'm anxious to hear about it. So tell us a little bit about your background and where how you got into this and about the businesses you created.
Sure. Thanks a lot, Ira. And first of all, I enjoyed the conversations that you and Keith were having. A lot of interesting points that came out about how upskilling and reskilling is happening, and love to touch base on some of the travel issues and during our talk. But back to your question. My story goes a long time back to a point when I was growing up, I was in a family where girls were not even allowed to think about a career. And I believe I go back and say what motivated me to have a career is when I saw my mom, and she was a housewife and an excellent mother. But there was one thing that always bothered me is why she not have a career? And the way she worked all her life for her kids and her family, that was marvelous. And I think all moms do it. But there was one part of it that I felt that this is not the role model that I'm looking for. And my mom knows that. And I think that most of the time people who take motivation from their own family, my motivation was the other way around. I said, no, I don't want to have this just a career, just a housewife, and not have my own individuality and identity. Even though I was born in a very, I call it as a conservative family growing up in India, and I took the step cusps of building my own career in a way that I went along with my family values, but still was able to make a career for myself. And I can explain that a little bit more in detail later. But that's where the whole point of what you see today, a mom relaunch business is. It's not a new idea. It's not in there. It's like from the point of when I was growing up, there was so much talented. I saw my aunts, my sisters, cousins. They're all talented women, but nobody's thinking about career. So that's how old this idea is in my head. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a lot of depth behind that, because it's, Ira in the introduction mentioned how you had a software company and you work with Salesforce, but really you did a lot of remarkable things. I mean, I think it's maybe 2002, I think is when you started it, right?
Absolutely.
And, what you were doing is looking at a talent market and working with Salesforce so that you could be ahead of the curve. And I want to assume, Reena, that you saw what was ahead of the curve and realized back then that there's a way to help moms relaunch. But I'm curious, how long ago did you start to recognize the need for a program like Mom Relaunch?
Okay. So continuing on my story, when I came to US after getting married, I got myself into as an IT consultant role, and I kind of started to get a feel of what the staffing market would look like. And I'm talking about that's in 1997. In 2002, I started my own, I call it as an independent consulting. And when my child was born, and my position was let go within a month, and because of an acquisition of the company that I was working for. And I saw that there is a real big need for a platform for moms to have I don't want to call it as a balanced career. I like to have a way I use the term prioritization at a definite time and moment, because sometimes your career is important, sometimes your family is important, but it has to be done in a way that there should be a platform for women to come in and be successful, be fulfilled. They don't have to choose between one or the other. It should be all part of the life. So answering your question, that's how old my idea of identifying that there's a talent pool that is not being utilized. And when I started to convert my own independent consulting company into an IT staffing company, that was in 2003, I hired one of my really good friend who was on a career break. I trained her to come and work as a business analyst for my company, and then placed her into a staffing with my client. So the whole idea of upskilling and reskilling, what both you, Ira, you and Keith were talking about, is a need of the time more so than ever before, because the options are numerous, the technology is there. I always go back and tell moms, if you can't do at this age of time with technology and the need and the fact that employers are actually identifying this talent pool, trying to recognize this, I don't know when will be the better time to do it. So that's how old my story about Mom Relaunch can be related to.
So Reena, this is Ira. If I'm a woman, which I'm not, especially with my Barry White voice today, but if I'm sitting here and I'm out, I've just had a child or a second child, and I've been out of the workforce a little bit, but I have aspirations of going back in, and they contact you. What's that look like? What does Mom Relaunch do? How can it help me?
Yeah, so we have laid out a very well-structured 4-step process. So they come in to our website. Anybody who's coming to get into our program, we tell them go and register. We have built a system as part of our moms' way to get their experience. I call it as a system built by moms for moms. And obviously it's built on Salesforce platform because that's where we specialize in. From the moment moms come into the system, we have automated the system to a way that they can go ahead and enroll in their first step, which we call as the career assessment. So we get to know who they are, get to understand what they really want to do going forward based on the experience that they have in the past as working, or maybe just coming back fresh to work. So that's how we understand and give them an action plan or career path in their first step. Second step is we call as training and certification, where we go back and tie up with industry training partners. Could it be Salesforce? Could it be some other partners? Could it be anyone else who are providing the both hard and soft skills? Now, do know that we are not a skills specific training. We are nurturing women with the ecosystem of talent providers and training companies. So second step, they get trained and certified in the technology they want to proceed. Currently, we have focus and expertise in Salesforce platform. We are also expanding in QA. We are also expanding in data science, business analysts, project management, anything related to technology so far. And we also want to stem out into the HR, like a recruiter and HR resources. So we have these kind of focus areas as of now. Hopefully we can expand more later. In the third step, which is a very, very unique process we have laid out, we call it as a launch pad. And that launch pad is where we give them hands-on experience. And in my experience, no matter how many degrees or trainings and certification you have, unless you show that you have worked hands-on, and simple things like how do you work and collaborate with the team? How do you go ahead and fill up your timesheet? How do you go back and make sure you're communicating properly, expressing yourself in the business meetings? All those things we teach during this nurturing time of Launchpad. And that is what we call as our unique sauce. And then the fourth step, we actually become a staffing and consulting company and help them find jobs and placements and put them on projects. We also became a registered consulting partner of Salesforce, so we can take on projects internally as well. So that's how we have laid out the process in part of our program.
So Reena, there's a couple things that you mentioned. Again, and I read this on the website as well, and anybody can go up to your website, Mom Relaunch, and find it too. You talked about your focus currently is on technology and HR. How much experience? I mean, so, obviously we have people that have, college degrees. They may even have postgraduate degrees. And then there's some people that may only have a, let's say, a high school degree or even an associate degree from a community college. Do you have a minimum requirement that people get involved, or are you basing it more on their skill set? What's involved? What level or what requirements are needed to get involved with you?
So it's a very good question. When we started, we opened it up for everyone. We felt that if they want to be in the technology, they have to have a little bit of understanding of how some technologies. Interestingly, Salesforce as a platform does not have a minimum requirement to go and become a Salesforce admin. There are a lot of stories that you will hear: a hairdresser becoming a Salesforce admin and a 70-year-old person becoming a Salesforce admin. But we prefer that you have some technology background. But most importantly, they need to bring the commitment and attitude to be successful. I was
curious, the feedback as it relates to the partners that you're working with on the company side, on the organization side. Having spent time in the staffing industry, flight risk and risk aversion is all the talk today. How are you able to ensure companies and your partner groups that the women coming in are focused, are determined, and they don't represent a flight risk in terms of having someone come and go within 6 months?
Yeah, a great question. And that's what we do in our Launchpad. We tell women who are in our Launchpad, if you don't show commitment, if you don't go back and show that you are working and fully committed, and we have minimum requirements that we ask them to put on the timesheet, and that's what we go back and say, this is how she is working while she's learning and training on a program, and this is how they have performed during the Launchpad period. So we internally judge them. I won't use the term judge. We kind of monitor how their progress is internally before we represent them to our clients. So there are women who are still getting there, who are highly motivated. They are high. So if I have to represent, say, 10 women on the same position, we give our own rating to the clients and say, this is where she is really good at. Maybe she's an excellent in project management, but still getting there on the technology side. So they get a value from us by knowing from our own internal assessment of each mom before we present them.
So with that in mind, and we kind of overstepped this at the beginning of the conversation, and we're actually going to be coming up on the break. So Ira, you tell me, maybe we come back to this after the break, but your experience with Salesforce, and for those of you that don't know what Salesforce is like what Apple is to phones, but in a business environment with software. So in other words, you can bolt on and put any kind of app or software through the Salesforce backbone, and that technology gives unbelievable data and insight for dynamic companies and of all shapes and sizes. And it's a tool I've used throughout my career. And what I can tell you is that when somebody's working with Salesforce at the rate and the depth that, Reena, you've worked with them, there is a phenomenal amount of learning experience there. So I'd like to learn, and Ira, you tell me if we're going to do this after the break. But
I think that's a good idea. We can pick that up right after the break, because we also had a couple questions that were online, and I just want to remind everybody, which forgot to do in the beginning, if you have a question, if you are a woman in the workplace, if you're taking a career break, or we didn't talk about this yet with Reena, but maybe even a dad who's been on parental leave and looking to get back in the workplace. What can you do? How do you do that? What are the skills that you can learn, and what are some of the opportunities that are out there? You are listening to the Geeks Geezers and Googlization show. We've got Reena Gupta from Mom's Relaunch today. Excited to talk to her, especially with all the shortages and opportunities, shortages of skilled labor, and all the opportunities that are out there for people. We've got Keith on the line as well. We're going to take a short break. We're going to hear from our sponsors, Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions. So stay right where you are. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Imagine how your company would grow if your candidate experience earned a 99% approval rating. Well, to get to 99%, you need the 3 best letters in recruitment technology, XOR. Zor's text bots, chat bots, and audio bots increased IKEA's candidate conversion rate 455%. Zor decreases candidate drop-off rates, improves your candidate experience, and collects analytics for future strategies. To learn more, check out Zor.ai. That's XOR.ai.
Hi everyone, this is Ira Wolf, author of Recruiting in the Age of Googlization. I'm excited to announce that my online course, Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter, is open for business. This course is the culmination of a 2-year-long project and releases recruiting tips I've learned after hundreds of hours of research, speaking with thousands of conference attendees, and interviews with dozens of experts. It's all available to you in Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter. To receive more information or get started, visit our website at www.successperformancesolutions.com and click on the tab Recruitment Marketing for the Accidental Recruiter.
Hey, welcome back everyone to the Geeks Geezers and Googlization show. I'm your host, Ira Wolf, here with my co-host, Keith Compagna, and our special guest today is Reena Gupta from Mom's Relaunch. If you are a woman on a break, a career break, taking care of family, even if you're a dad on parental leave, this is the place to be today. We're talking with, again, Reena about how she is helping people kind of enliven, take their entrepreneurial spirit, or just hone their technology and HR skills. That's where she started, and getting a career jump started while you're balancing and integrating your home life, your new family life. Certainly, we live. I think I read this on your site, Reena, that we live on a roller coaster, and certainly children tend to do that, amongst other things. We live even without children today. We live on a roller coaster. I talk a lot about VUCA. That was my TED talk, and the world we live in. Volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. So we're all living on a roller coaster. But put a couple kids on the ride, and it certainly takes us there. There's a couple things here. Just got a reminder. Anybody who has a question for Reena, looking to get back, 561-623-9429. That's 561-623-9429. Or you can go up to w4cy.com and submit a question on the chat. We've got a few questions up there. One was, I think it was more of a comment from John. I believe that a lazy that lazy people is leaving a bad mark on other people. And I think that's true. I think employers, when I hear them, they tend to stereotype, but not only lazy people, but they tend to throw all the millennials in that bucket. And as you know, I'm a recovering millennial basher. And again, many of the millennials that I've met happen to be the most ambitious entrepreneurial people that on the planet. So that was one comment. There was another one by Jan, and maybe I set off this on the wrong foot when I said that initially people were asking, so when do you think you're going to get married, or how long is it going to be till you have a baby? And that's, again, I started my employer life and my life a long time ago, almost 40 years ago. And there was a lot of that was the norm out there. And a lot of people wouldn't hire young girls. And at the time I say that because that's how they'd say it. We don't hire young girls because all they're going to do is get married, and then they're going to get pregnant, and then they're going to leave us, and we're going to lose all our training. And that's, we live in a world that is just topsy-turvy right now. So I applaud you, Reena, for everything you're doing.
Thank you.
Right during the break, you said that and we go back to our skilling, your upskilling and reskilling, that you did a survey on that. You just started to go into, you did a survey on some of the skill, I believe it was some of the skills, but tell us about that survey that you were doing.
So we asked a very simple question to people in our group, people who are part of our active Mom Relaunch training program. And it was astonishing that almost 100% of them, at least more than very close to that number, have completed their bachelor's degree. And about 40% of them also have a master's degree. So that level of talent that is not being utilized in the workforce, and then they come back and say we have talent shortage, and then they come back and say we don't have women in technology, and why aren't you utilizing this talent? So that's what we are trying to make employers believe, that this talent pool may or may not be working 40 hours a week, but you can get a lot of productive work from them if they work 20, 30 hours or pair up a couple of moms on a project. We are seeing astonishing results when we look at our own system, what the moms who are working on the projects and the talent pool that they bring in. So the general notion that you just said, that women are going to get married and leave and all that, I mean, you don't want to go back and say, yeah, we do want to get married, we do want to have kids, but that doesn't mean that we are not going to work. That doesn't mean that we are not going to be productive. And in my opinion, the amount of productivity and accountability I've seen in these women, when in my own companies, before I was running Mom Relaunch, I have a lot of women. I've given them the flexibility to work remotely. I've given them the flexibility to work flexible hours, and the amount of productivity and the loyalty, the attrition problem that you see in the companies. I mean, all these things are really covered when you look at this talent pool. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, keep going. This is a great topic. Keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, the training that women are given before taking a break is not going to waste. If they have done their masters, they are learning so many skills during their parenting, and I call that as a transferable skills. Employers need to understand that when they look at their resumes, they cannot look at the career gap. They have to look beyond the resumes. They have to go back and identify that the time management skills that they have learned, the ability to stay calm when your kids are running around up and down or fall during this is going to help them manage the projects at risk. And these skills you cannot teach a college grad coming out of it.
Just think of the team leader. It really, Reena, it blows my mind how seemingly challenging it is for a company like yours to take off and just go skyrocketing, because you look at all of the wins that any organization that partners with you would get, or any other organization for that matter, because there aren't enough people in the talent marketplace. You have to, it's really fascinating to see you be able to hit the mark on so many macro issues, and you've got the right model. You're validating, you're qualifying, you're setting expectations for the women that come into your program, so they know that this isn't like nobody can guarantee you're going to work at a company for more than 5 years anymore, but at least the women coming through Mom Launch, they have a great understanding about what's expected of them.
Absolutely.
How is it that, what are the organizations telling you when you reach out to them and you try to set up a program? Are they all jumping on it, or are they doing that standard HR thing where they have to hesitate because it's a new idea and new ideas are scary?
So I have to applaud Salesforce.com to lead the way for how companies and employers should think about this talent pool. And the way they have come and supported our program, they are inviting us to join the student contest that is happening in Dreamforce. They are inviting to talk about how to diversify workforce. So Salesforce has led the way for a lot of companies, but are a lot of companies catching up to it? It's not there yet, to be very honest. They still go through the whole HR stuff, and I don't have any issues with that. The problem is some of these applicant tracking systems that I personally built. It's like when you have resumes go through their system, it just doesn't even filter them. No. They do not even show, because I know how technology works, and my system would have filtered all these women out. It doesn't even reach to the hiring manager. So my goal is just to have these women go and reach to the hiring manager. That's a big, big step. And that, I think, we are getting interest. I wouldn't say we are being accepted yet, because we still have to figure out what it is take to run individual training program for companies or products. Like we are having some great discussions with product companies, or we call as the ISV partners within Salesforce. They want us to see if we can give them nurtured moms to further train them on their platform. So it's baby steps. Employers are recognizing that they cannot ignore this talent pool anymore. But are they there yet? I don't think so. Do I have hope for it? Absolutely. That's why we are here.
Yeah, and I gotta support you with that vision, because you look at the way this hits, right? Let's talk about the big things. Gig economy.
Yes.
Flexible workforce, qualified people, responsible. You have responsibilities. If you're a mom, it's almost a default. I'm not saying it applies to not every mom gets it right away, right? But at the end of the day, it's a magnificent position to have.
Yeah.
And just, the soft skills. We talk about creativity. I've seen it in front row. My children's mother had to get awfully creative in terms of how to keep things together without going crazy and doing a lot of work for a lot of different people. It's a very, very good idea at a great time.
We just have to work as a community of people trying to promote and help each other. That's what we are looking for as to grow this program.
So so much of this was aligned with what we were talking about yesterday with the reskilling and upskilling with Enrique on hacking HR. They talked a lot about, and from the beginning, Reena, when you were talking about this, is how do we get employers, how do we get the attention of employers? How do we get them to appreciate it? And sometimes it's not HR. I think HR, this is one of the things that HR gets. Because they do talk about diversity, inclusion, and gender diversity, and getting people back in. But then it's the hiring managers, so they present someone to a hiring manager, and then the hiring managers push back on that. Again, giving deference to the to the male or somebody. There's also the ageism and giving it to somebody that's younger. But it's taking the whole selection process that I'm a big advocate. And I don't know if you've read any of my things, but I constantly talk about this. That yes, we do have a labor shortage, skilled labor shortage, and we have skill gaps, and all those things are real. But the biggest problem companies have is they keep tripping over their own feet. They can't get out of the idea that we still have we need somebody full time or part time. That they still measure their, the success is, can you work 40 hours a week, when really what they're looking for is outcomes. And, there are certain jobs, obviously in healthcare, if you're a nurse and they need somebody bedside, you need a body there. But so many other jobs, especially in IT, you do not, in IT and staffing. So there's so many roles. So yesterday, a lot of the discussion was around that we need to focus on, think of not jobs, but thinking of projects. And what are the roles that people need to play, and what are the skills that they need to fulfill those roles, and stop thinking about jobs. as this, as this finite thing. I don't know what other word there is or entity that we need somebody that can be here 20 or 40 hours a week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's actually, and that's what I mentioned in the beginning of the call. It's like the productivity is what should matter, whether to get the job done or not. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this, but this is Mom Relaunch is almost my fifth venture. And I literally ran all my companies remotely from my own home office, of course, taking care of my family and kids. But we have clients in 20 countries, over 1,000 clients between all my companies. And it's not an easy job, but is it getting done? And am I productive enough? Yes, I manage my schedule and all that. I used to wake up at 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning for the last 15, 16 years. And so all these things, you just leave it to the person. And who does better than moms? I don't think, I'm not
the job, the CEO. Yeah, you're the CEO of one of the most complicated organizations that ever existed. I think Keith's learning a little bit about that, being a single dad, right?
Yeah. Well, but the truth of the matter is, I had a phenomenal support system, and when I was at JobVite, when most of this was happening, they focused on enabling me that life-work integration component. So it really did. It matters a whole bunch. And candidly, I just don't see there being another alternative for organizations. How bad do things have to get before your phone is ringing off of the hook?
Right.
So one of the things that, and Keith, you've heard me say this a million times, and I'm sure Reena, you're familiar with it. That within 5 years, millennials will make 75% of the workforce. So and they currently make well over 50% of the workforce, and yet. That's the big, what's wrong with millennials? They got this, horrible work ethic and all this other stuff. And yet, the ones I run across are so entrepreneurial and so ambitious. And, again, and I know one of your passions is giving back to the community, giving back to other people. And that aligns there. But also when you think about that people are just have this turning away millennials, but then what they do with females. So while you were talking, I pulled up a couple stats. 72.5% of females recently who graduated from high school enrolled in a 2 or 4 year college. That compares, that's about 10% greater than men. That used to be, just a few years ago, that used to be 57%, almost 6 out of every 10 males went to college, but less than half of females went on to some type of continuing education. The numbers have not only reversed, but the gap is even greater than it is now. And yet, males who still are dominating the C-suite and a lot of ownership. I wouldn't say entrepreneurship. I think entrepreneurship has created a real opportunity for women in the workplace. But they still turn their backs on so much of the population by bad stereotypes and not changing the way that they're what's how are the organizations run, which includes defining jobs and so forth.
Yeah, so the numbers, I think one of the things that you have to look into is comparing the number 70% at the college or university level is not exactly related to how many are going to continue in their career after they become a mom. That's where the whole problem is. If you think about it, I don't see girls not opting to have a higher education, especially in this time of education and technology. But what really happens at the time of when they become a mom and they choose to have a family is a very key, important point that Keith mentioned called support system. And if you think about it, if you go to our website, my whole vision is not only to bring women into the workforce, but actually create a support system. We jokingly call that we are trying to reinvent the wheel, because maybe not every mom wants to become an IT, but she's an excellent cook and she can run carpool, and why can't we support each other? And that's the network and power and community that my real vision of Mom Relaunch is. Mom bringing just on the IT jobs is way to get them started. But once you pull moms out of the homes and the work that they're doing, somebody has to backfill. And there's one unfortunate truth is, like, we as moms, we want to do everything. We don't want to know how to let go. We have to teach moms also. It's like, it's okay to outsource some of the things. So there's two sides of the story. But the key to focus is, do we have a support system for women to be successful, or as a matter of fact, dads to be successful? Keith would not have been successful if he couldn't find the employer that is supporting and he has a support system. So the key problem to focus is, do we have a support system to run today's work culture? And that's the key problem we are trying to solve. How we are solving right now is because this is the most we call it as a gold mine of hidden talent to our moms. They are hidden. They are not coming up. They are just trying to be happy and successful in what they are doing. We just have to show them the path and give them a platform where they can find everything that they need, their child support, their things, and all those things. So we have not even touched on those aspects of our company yet. We are still keeping our feet wet there. But as of now, that's my real big vision, to create create a platform and an ecosystem. And we don't have to do everything. We just have to bring partners who can enable. And I've been in Salesforce ecosystem. I know what the value of Ohana is, what is a whole ecosystem can do for each other. So if you ask me what's the real value for Mom Relaunch, that's our vision.
It's fantastic. Hey, we're coming up. As I told you, this is going to go pretty fast, and it has. So we've got just a few minutes left. We want to find out how people can learn more about you and get in touch with you. But I do have one final question, if you can do it pretty succinctly. What are some skill sets common skill sets that you've seen that you're kind of the people that you've worked with have that have allowed them to develop these careers?
So as I mentioned, currently our focus is on the IT. So we tend to bring in women who have some IT background. That makes our job easier. It makes them easy to get into the workforce as well. But the skills that we're looking for is at least some level of bachelor's degree and some good communication skills, the soft skills to be able to express themselves, have a learning time capability, and of course a good internet and a laptop to work.
Yeah, true. Yeah, and I think it goes back. I mean, I think some of these are universal, whatever your business you're in. I don't think it just relates to mom trying to get back in the workforce. But again, the ability to collaborate, open-mindedness, exactly. Being able to balance, to be able to reprioritize, as you suggested earlier. Those are skills that everyone's going to need. So I think, but maybe women have, because of their managing, the CEO of the household, exactly. They have that natural tendency to be able to do that. So how can people get a hold of you, Reena?
So the best thing is to go and register on our website. You can register either as a mom or a candidate looking for a job. And for employers also, come and look at our talent pool, post your job openings, give us your projects. We are into taking in the projects. We are ready to take on challenges. So come and register on our website, give us your projects, give us your job requirements. If you feel there's a position for one person for 40 hours and we have moms who are qualified for that, we can also tag along another mom as their launch pad. They can learn and get trained while the other person is working on your job. So the best thing is to come and register on our website, or you can send email to info@momrelaunch.com and we'll love to get in touch with you.
And is that both for tech jobs and staffing and HR?
Yes.
Is that for everything? Good.
Yes.
Excellent.
So it's we started with the concept of building a whole marketplace for jobs and candidates and all, but soon realized that unless we nurture this talent, this is no good than just creating another marketplace. So the nurturing and giving them the experience is where we focus on, and employers get a talent pool that is already ready to be productive.
Yeah. Well, and I encourage everybody to go up and look at the website. Also, check the blog. There's a lot of really, really good articles up there. I started to go through them. So, so congratulations, Reena, and good luck. I'm sure this is a topic we're going to be coming back to often. We've talked about doing a couple panels or summits in 2020 for this, and we'd love to have you back.
Absolutely. It will be my honor to be coming back on this.
Thanks, Reena.
The conversation will continue. So thanks again, everyone, for listening to the Geeks Geezers and Googlization show and being part of Googlization Nation. We're always interested in what's on your mind. Thanks for those who contributed to the chat today. If you're interested in being a guest or a sponsor, just connect with Keith or myself, or go to Geeks Geezers and geeksgeezersgooglization.com. And don't forget to join Googlization Nation up there. You can subscribe and hear get alerts and hear what's going on. Thanks again to Zor.ai and Success Performance Solutions for sponsoring us, for allowing us to be on the air. And don't forget to join us next week, Wednesday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on W4CY.com. And you can listen to any of our podcasts on Spotify, Apple, Google, iHeart, SoundCloud, Amazon, you name it, we're there. Or go up to geeksgeezersgooglization.com. So until next week at this time, this is Ira Wolf and Keith Campagna. Don't let the shift hit your plans.